With the terror attacks in Paris still so fresh in worldwide minds, America's once again forced to the edge when bullets ring out in Southern California, and we're forced to try and come to grips with those who go on mass killing sprees for no apparent reason. They are the most sought-after killers in the world, the ones determined to bring America, Israel, and other free nations to their knees any way they can. Everyone knows this. So why then is there a thinking America is helping ISIS? They are looking in every nook and corner of Chicago at the moment, seeking to find the truth behind what may be an historic cover-up, this time with a possible connection to the White House. Donald Trump plays the media perfectly with two more shocking statements and the most ridiculous and fake movie controversy of the year, maybe ever. Let's get ready for the close-up. I'm Ed Berliner, and this is The Hard Line for Wednesday, December 2nd, 2015.
At this point, I know one of your questions is going to be, is this a terrorist incident? I will tell you right now, we do not know if this is a terrorist incident. So we start from the beginning, working with all our local partners. We take the presumption that it may be, it may not be, but we will work hand in hand with them from the beginning. If things change, we are here from the get-go, and there is no steps lost as the investigation proceeds.
It is yet another sign of our deadly times. Stanford University in California has a web page dedicated to mass shootings in America. And on the front page, they define a mass shooting as 3 or more victims, a shooting not part of gang violence or drug-related, when the motive is nothing more than indiscriminate killing. They added another mark on their map of the United States Wednesday, San Bernardino, California, where gunfire rang out in the late morning. And America added yet another mark to its despicable belt. On the 336th day of 2015, there have been 352 mass shootings. Thoughts and prayers are automatic from anybody with a heart, but let's be honest. All the thoughts and prayers are doing nothing to stop this destruction of life and society. Now from those who can add some real insight. Welcome back the retired Los Angeles police sergeant who lives in San Bernardino County, Cheryl Dorsey. Also former New York police officer, New York City Police Department officer, John Cordillo. I want to thank you both for joining us. We have people who have been here before. Sergeant Dorsey, I'm going to come to you first, because you're so close to what's going on out there. Isn't the single most important thing as we begin this investigation, do not jump to conclusions and make sure that everything is done methodically?
Absolutely. It's important to leave no stone unturned as we try to identify these 3 gunmen that entered this facility and assume nothing about their motives, what inspired them, and why they chose this particular venue to act out this horrendous event.
So then, John, looking at motive, that has to be something that everybody is going to look at. Give us some insight, if you will, into the investigative procedures here as to how they start to deconstruct this and figure out as quickly as they can what that motive is, because that may very well help lead them to these suspects.
Right, Ed. Well, obviously, the best source of intelligence are going to be those who are in the building and lived. And right now, busloads with hundreds of people are being sent to receiving facilities where detectives are going to meet those individuals and do full interviews and debriefs to determine exactly what happened minute by minute. In an investigation, the timeline is everything, second by second, minute by minute. What did they say? Where did they go? What did these gunmen do? That's what's happening as we speak, as we sit here on air.
Sergeant Dorsey, knowing that you're so close to it, Southern California, very bucolic in many ways, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, very pretty areas here. The entire world is on edge right now after what happened in Paris. It was so random, it was so senseless, but it was so targeted at the same time. Can you give us an idea of what things have been like in California yesterday and what they're like today when people realize that no matter what it is, terrorism, a whack job, whatever, that they are in the sights of the people who want to kill for no reason?
You know, I think on yesterday we all were very comfortable in our own spaces because we like to think that we can go about living our lives and we're not really affected, right? This happens someplace else, and so now this is hit home here in Southern California. And then to know that these 3 gunmen are still on the loose is particularly unsettling because they could be anywhere. Are they preparing to strike again? That's the great unknown, and that's what's most unsettling is that we don't know who these people are and we don't know where these people are.
I'm going to ask you both, and first, Sergeant Dorsey, I want to stay with you because this comes down to your investigative knowledge here and your procedures. You've been involved in this. Sergeant Dorsey, what is it right now that they need to be looking for? give us a little bit of a sense of what that investigative process is going to be, because as you noted, they got away scot clean, and in the first few hours after this, no one had any idea where they're at. So how are they going to go about this?
Well, I think part of it is certainly going to come from information for the people that were there in the building, but it's also going to be very important to identify businesses that are in the area that have video cameras, and then to determine which ones are operable, because that's always problematic, and then of those that are operating, who maintains the video beyond a day or two. And so they've got to make those identifications, contact the people that are responsible for maintaining custody of those videos, and then get them in their possession to view.
John, here's something that sits to me as I want to get your perspective on that as well, but also the things that sticks in my mind is when the press conference said after this, quote, they were on a mission. That's something that you have to put into the process here as you go about this. These guys didn't just show up with guns anyplace. They knew exactly where they were going, apparently, and knew exactly who they were targeting.
Yeah, I mean, early reports are obviously the way they were dressed, right? Body armor, long guns. We don't know what kind of long guns, but rifles are inherently far more powerful than pistols. They're there to do optimum damage. And they apparently went to a conference room. All of the victims we now know were centralized in one part of the building. So this certainly appears to have been a planned, coordinated, and targeted attack.
John, I'm going to stay with you here for a moment. The numbers that I used coming in. This is the 336th day of the year. There have been 352 mass shootings in America. Regardless of where you stand politically, not just you, but anybody, doesn't this scream that something's got to be done? This is far out of control.
I don't really like how they declare something a mass shooting, because there was a shooting of 17 people in New Orleans a week and a half ago at a playground during a music video that isn't being classified a mass shooting. So I find the classifications a bit political in nature. Sure, we live in a violent nation, but I think knee-jerk reaction and calls for legislation are a bit premature.
Now, I'm going to agree with you there, John. I have to interrupt you for a second. I have to agree with that, because Martin O'Malley, in a tweet within an hour or so after this happened, what was he doing? He was immediately blaming the NRA from this, which is insulting, with 14 bodies on the ground and people's families having to show up knowing that they may be identifying dead relatives. Don't we, John, have to start, first of all, let's take this out of the political side of things and realize we got a problem here, one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I like to look at this. If you tell me we want to look at this from a criminological, sociological, mental health perspective, I am the biggest supporter of that. Tell me where to sign up. Absolutely, Ed.
All right, Sergeant Dorsey, I come to you on the same thing here. Mass shootings. As a cop, you got to keep yourself in check. You don't want to knee-jerk. You're trained not to do it. But even in law enforcement's minds, it's got to be going through them. This can come anywhere. Something's got to be done. But don't we have to keep this out of politics first?
Well, certainly. I think we need to keep a clear head so that we can look at this thing without a jaundiced eye, if you will. And so if we just stick to the facts and deal with what we know, and let's try to get the nuts and bolts of this incident, and this alone, honed in, if you will, determine what we have here, and then all we can do is prepare and try to have the best security measures we can at any given venue, because really there's no way to predict when or where bad things will happen. We are always responding, reacting to. You can only be so proactive. And for them to pick a place where there were so many vulnerable people really lets you know that no place is safe.
How concerned, Sergeant Dorsey, are the cops themselves when they begin investigating something like this, and they begin to become aware that it can happen any place at any time in any town?
Well, I think police officers understand that. It's inherent to police work, and so that's why we train and we do the things that we do, and that's why, we have intel, and we're constantly sharing information with other agencies and other municipalities about the kinds of things that are happening here and abroad, because it can happen anywhere. And when it does, we want to learn from the mistakes or from the failures of other agencies, if you will, so that we can put our best foot forward if and when we find ourselves facing a similar incident. And so we understand that these kinds of things occur, and I like to think that certainly here in Los Angeles and San Bernardino, that these are some of the best trained police officers in the nation, and so they're going to get to the bottom of this with a quickness.
In 30 seconds, John, part of this is thinking that anybody can become a killing force. These are three people who thought this out, who may have trained for it. That's the frightening thing we need to come to grips with, correct?
Well, certainly, Ed. You know, these small groups or lone actors are very spontaneous. People said in Paris, why wasn't chatter intercepted? There was no chatter to intercept. It was 20 guys. You could have coordinated the attack in an apartment 2 hours prior. And that's the real challenge to law enforcement going forward. How do we identify and interdict these small groups or lone actors before they kill? That's going to prove to be very tough.
And that has also been, that's one of the things that we have been talking about over the last few years here. I know that I've been talking about with my law enforcement friends is you've got to start there, but that's a tough place to begin. We have to dig into that too. Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, please, you and your family in San Bernardino County, please stay safe. John Cordillo, you as well stay safe, my friend. We thank you both for being here. Stay with us. The Hard Line will continue.